Okay, here's the thing. My last few performances on stage, I guess also on screen, have been um, older characters, and it didn't matter if I looked young or not. And with acting, obviously, there's no limit to age. Um, I just have never wanted to age, but I am aging. I'm 46, turning 47 this year. Heading towards 50. I keep saying I'm about 50, which means if I want to have kids, I'll probably miss the opportunity. But I haven't really, in terms of biology, I haven't. But, I don't know if I want to date a 46-year-old woman. Don't they become barren at about 40? I don't know. I haven't got female friends my age. I haven't got male friends my age, really. A couple maybe, but they've all had kids and had wives and stuff, but they don't hang out with me. And it's just once in a blue moon. The people I have hung out with have just been other stage actors and stuff who are all younger than me now. Just because I do community theatre instead of professional theatre, which is what I should be pushing myself to do after 35 years plus of training. So, yeah, I'm old and I need to accept that. But not really, I don't need to accept it. I mean, I could, I don't have to accept being fat, which means I don't have to accept the way I look. You can change the way you look like that. Just go to a clothing shop and you'll see. Just get a hat or glasses, you'll change your face. So the thing is, I want to be able to do this. And after taking this hairpiece off, which was just not on properly for days, and I was just I didn't have access to a proper mirror. But good mirrors with good lighting, light facing your face so you can actually see your reflection properly, they're rare. And my glasses, my eyesight's gone really bad. Unless I can have an operation that can totally fix it, I can't see myself in the mirror properly anymore without the help of glasses and so on. So I worry that I won't be doing this properly. And I'm always worried about the wind and water and stuff. Just accepting ugliness, or just accepting baldness. Given the fact that I haven't seen a lot of people I know in a long period of time, I could just go bald, and people just go, "Oh my God, what the fuck? You've gone bald instantly." I haven't got any pictures on social media or anything where I'm bald. I've removed everything where I was balding onwards. And only hairpiece pictures exist now. But the most important thing that matters in terms of appearance is don't be fat. Have a good body. Go to the gym or do some exercise, walk around the place. I don't. I love to sit in a chair and I love to eat. They're my favorite two things. You know what? One of the things I hate the most in the world is exercise. But it's not that bad. It's just, I don't want to brush my teeth or have a shower or do any of the other things. You have to. You fucking have to have a shower. You have to brush your teeth, right? And you have to go for a fucking walk, if you can walk. Otherwise, you've got to go for a roll or something to move, get the blood flowing through your veins and arteries and keep you oxygenated. Otherwise, you just stagnate and then all your blood vessels will fill up with cholesterol, build up. And then you die. So fitness is not just about looks, but it's also about health, and it's the main thing that makes you look better or worse. Bald people can look good if they're in shape. Just not as good as somebody with a full head of hair. But to have a full head of hair, it has to look real. And the effort to make it look real. Here are a list of things that you have to consider when wearing a hairpiece and deciding whether or not people will believe it. 1, are they young? Have they got perfect eyesight? If so, they will detect any problems with it. That's guaranteed. And I'd say most people in the world have 20/20 vision. Okay? So that's most people. A lot of people will be able to tell if you haven't got a convincing hairpiece or not. So as I go grey, if my hairpiece hasn't got greys in it, it has to have greys in it. Otherwise, it won't look real. It'll look like I'm wearing a young person's hair on a grey head. That's not right. I would have to continually dye my fucking hair all the time. I can't age with greys unless the hairpiece accommodates that. And do they line up? Does it look nice? I think that's probably not hard, because it doesn't matter if you just have to have the same amount of greys. Like if this is completely grey and this is only sporadically grey, it's not going to work. It's just, you've got to match the percentage of grey. And here, the percentage of grey is much higher than back here, where it's not grey at all, probably, so far. But that will keep changing as I keep going. But, you know, hair pieces do need to be thrown out and you have to get new ones, so therefore it's probably not a major problem. Second thing, well, probably the second and all other things, the front hairline and the perimeter. Like, my perimeter is here, as you can see clearly, right? That's my shave zone. The hairpiece starts at the top of the top nub of my forehead. When I raise my eyebrows, it causes creases and I can see where it should start. And also when I haven't shaved my head, it sort of shows I've still got remaining hairs growing a little bit here. That is all thin out. Very thin here too. So if I do decide to go natural, I'm almost guaranteed to require a short haircut at all times, which will be fucking easy though. And as I've said, if it tans in the gaps, then it won't be as bad. Tanned people don't look as bad bald. I could try and put some fake tan over there for the first few months or weeks or whatever, but you know, the most important thing here is that it becomes even over time, because obviously hair pieces and hair itself creates a shadow. So if you shave your head and it hasn't been shaved in a long time, surely your face is going to be more dark or whatever than your scalp. I don't naturally tan very much at all. It probably takes me 20 years and I'm just get freckles instead of a tan. But yeah, I don't know what the deal is with dark skinned people, if their head is exactly the same color as their face when they shave their head. I don't know that. Potentially it gets darker where sun has touched them, but potentially not. I don't really know that. It's pretty interesting. Yeah. Secondly, and probably all the other things, with the front hairline, right? This is what we're frightened about, this being real looking or not. Now, most of the time we know it's not looking real or it's going to be problematic, so we generally have a brushed forward look to cover it. This is best achieved by having a fairly short, maybe 1.5 inches, which is the shortest you would go with V-loops or knots, because if it's too short, it will just stick up because it's tied in and there's no weight for it to bend. And then it's the way it's stitched. If it's stitched the wrong way or backwards or forwards or whatever, it won't be brushable anyway. So very short, you could fluff it potentially. So that's where my hairline starts. 1.5 inches is down to about there, I'm estimating. That's the length of my hairs throughout the whole haircut and hairpiece. Maybe even shorter back and sides, right? I'd say most people, men, typically throughout history, in terms of the years we've seen in Hollywood and everywhere else, it's typically, if you don't want to do anything interesting, just 1 inch everywhere and then 1.5 inches around this area, blending from the back forwards. And incorrectly, when hairdressers who have been trained in Australia, they all seem to do this. They keep it all up, all the way up here, and then flatten it out so it's just square. No, they should have this length short all the way until you get to this point, after the curve of the skull. After the curve of the skull, then start going longer to the fringe, or the bangs for some reason in America. Yeah, so the front hairline. If you can get a perfect looking hairline at the front, you better hope there's no sunshine, because if it's poly or a thin skin base, that will reflect light differently to the skin on your forehead. And if it's lace, then there's zero chance that glue along the very front, if you even have managed by some miracle to line up the lace to the glue exactly, which is fucking beyond difficult. By day 2, dirt has gathered just from the air, or having a shower, or touching it, or anything, right? It's dirty. So lace is dirty if it's not day 1. Day 1's perfect. If you can get that glue lined up exactly and not have any residual stuff going on down here, it's perfect, right? Day 1 on lace. On poly, if you've got a brush back look, or your front hairline is highly visible, it's shiny. It's a different... The hair company I speak to seem to be oblivious to 90% of the problems I mentioned. I watched I watched a video of them painting on what is going to dry to become polythin skin. They just take a scalp-shaped head thing and just paste glue on, dry it in an oven a couple of times or whatever, and it comes out and it peels off and it's dome-shaped. Then they thread it, then with V-loops, what they call V-loops, it's just V, so one in and out the other end, and then they paint on an undercoat which seals those V's from falling at the base. And they've managed to get it down to 0.03 millimeters, which is about the same width as a piece of paper. I looked up what GSM, which is to do with mass of paper. That's how paper is usually measured in mass. But when I read on the internet, the width of a sheet of paper, it was about 0.05 millimeters. If you look at a millimeter, if your base of your hairpiece was 1 millimeter thick, it would be a stack of, I don't know, 0.05, it's 20, yeah, all right. Anyway, 20 hairpieces stacked on top would be more than 1 millimeter, wouldn't they? That can't be right. Then it's not 0.05. All right, they're lying to us. They're fucking lying. I don't know how this works, right? If you squeeze it with a machine, for it to be 0.05 millimeters, you know what a millimeter is, right? I don't have a ruler with me, but this doesn't have second hands. If this had second hands, if this had, okay. What I mean is, what are the notches on the edge of a clock that the hands point to called? I mean, you see where it says, you see where it says 12 in Roman numerals at the top of the clock? What is that if it was just a line? Is that a notch? Anyway, I've never learned what those things are called. I've just been told that the little hand points to the 3 or the little hand points to the 5. I've never been told what the notches are. Anyway, let's call them notches, right? Now, right, let's go somewhere thin, right? Oh, okay, I'll tell you what. I reckon number 1 on this clock is about 1 millimeter thick. There you go. I was going to say the gap between 2 notches, but that is about the gap between 2 notches if we're dividing this circle into 60, right? So that's about 1 millimeter. Now, I can tell you right now, I don't believe that 0.03 millimeters. Okay, the maths on that, 0.03. There are 33. There are 33 threes in 100. Yeah, 33. We need 33 of them stacked on top of each other to be as thin as that one. No way. It's not gonna happen. Just 0.03. I fucking hate saying it over and over again. It's too many words. So is this fucking interview. It's not even an interview. I can't even bother. Anyway. Okay, here's the thing. 33 hairpieces stacked on top of each other. It's going to be thicker than that fucking thing. Alright? when they place it down on that head thing, they paste it on with the glue. It's arbitrary. They just paint it on. It's like a layer of paint on a wall, okay? And they peel it off, and then that gets stitched, and then they paint on a next layer, and it's double the thickness. The surface they're painting onto is smooth, but it should be lumpy. It should be rough so that it's less shiny. That's obvious, isn't it? So that it doesn't reflect light because it's a shiny surface. But my efforts over the years to try to teach the hair factory community, the people who make hair pieces, it's all been in vain, because the Chinese don't have the same Western logic as we do. They don't see mistakes in their products and then fix them. They wait until some Western company makes something, then they copy it. And there's no Western hair company to copy. I'm very impressed that hair pieces exist. They look very real, they look very good, but they're not perfect, okay? So let's imagine, glue aside, because we'll get to that. Boom. That is not good. It's shiny. They didn't make the hairpiece on a rough surface, and so it reflects light in a very, very fucking shiny way. Even if it's clear and invisible, right? If you wrap your arm in glad wrap or cling wrap or whatever the fuck you call it in your country, it's going to look different from the rest of your arm, isn't it? Yes, it is. So that's what we're dealing with poly. So that shininess is the problem, okay, on the front hairline. In terms of it looking real coming out of it, it has to be bleached, and that's the product I'm working on creating. Because if your hair's blonde, you'll have the least problems out of everybody. If your skin is black and your hair is black, you'll have no problems either, except for that shiny factor. I would say because blonde people just have such shiny heads in the first place, they'd have the least problems. Your skin color, there's no skin color that's auburn, all right? So I'm just going to go with people who've got the same skin color as their hair are going to have the least amount of problems, but there's still going to be that shine difference. White people are already shiny, so they'll have the least amount of visibility there. Now, lace is such a problem at the front hairline that I don't even worry about it anymore, because it's so difficult to line it up exactly and make the lace land. And then when you pull it up, unless you use lace release and do all that extra stuff, so much extra stuff with lace you have to deal with to get it more realistic looking, it's going to rip the hairs out from underneath because it's still stuck to the glue or whatever melted shit is remaining, and all the hairs in the hairpiece falls apart. Still usable, but you can't get the glue off the base of the hairpiece anymore unless you use lace release, which depends on you placing it down at the time of removal, and then there's still a whole bunch of shit you got to do to get it clean. Poly is nothing like that. You just peel it off with your thumb afterwards, and it's like this one, right? It's dirty, it's messy to get it off, but I can do it with my thumb. I just sit there and watch a TV show and just peel it off, and then ball it up and keep wiping my hands with this stuff, and then use C22, and then that's reusable. I'd rather it wasn't. I'd rather just have enough money that I just use a hairpiece once and then throw it away, because I fucking hate cleaning hairpieces. But that's a much easier solution. Because if that was lace, there's no fucking way I'd bother to clean it. I'd just chuck it out. But people who use lace all the time, they just probably use lace release, which is a product that you spray through your hairs at the time you want to remove the hairpiece, and the crappy glue that's still there after 3 or 4 weeks or whatever remains on the head and not on the hairpiece, and then you've got less chunks to peel off the lace at the end. But all that time they've been dealing with fucking dirt gathering here and just having to every day go along and clean that shit off, and then has it. And then if it's a hot sunny day, I was complaining about the shine from the poly. If it's a hot day, that glue will melt and it will shine through the hairs, not only becoming highly visible to anyone looking at your forehead or anywhere around this area where it might not have enough coverage, which is why I choose medium density rather than medium light density. Not only that fucking problem, also the glue will have melted to the extent it's coming through the hairs and sticking the hairs together and fucking the hairpiece permanently. With poly, that doesn't happen. Now, there's a thing about breathability, right? You don't need breathability all over your head, right? You just need breathability in a lot of your head. So if it was poly somewhere and then lace somewhere else, you've still got quite a lot of breathability. I wouldn't recommend probably going full poly because it'll be probably too hot unless it's a cold climate, and it doesn't matter. But it's probably nice to have some feeling of air going through and touching, even if it's through glue. At the moment, I'm having a ring of poly ordered with a circle in the middle of all lace. Probably what I should have done is gone circle of poly, then cross of lace. It's just not as good for me because for me, this back part here, the lace blends with the perimeter better, and because poly is stark up against when it comes to matching this kind of natural, the way hairs come out of your head naturally, poly sucks at that. It's because, like I've said, that's what the edge of the poly hairpiece looks like, and that's what the growth of your natural hairs looks like. Whereas with lace, they both kind of look like that. So in that way, lace wins. But trying to get the front hairline lining up exact is impossible. So if you glued your scalp before you put the hairpiece on, kept the front until last, and that was all just poly, you could just glue along the poly front hairline and then slap it down. It's exactly in position. There's no need to worry about lining up where it will land, right? And you can do that in either order. You can pre-glue the front hairline of the poly hairpiece and glue the rest of your scalp, if it was poly lace hybrid like I'm talking about, and then place the hairpiece at the front hairline exactly where you want it. And then because you've pre-glued the back of your whole head, your whole scalp, you just spray that with alcohol, give you 30 seconds, and then you can squiggle it into position. Or, depending on how much of the poly you've cut off around the sides and back, there could be poly perimeter around the whole thing there, but then it's not going to match up as nicely for you where it comes to the perimeter. But for people who've got a hairpiece that's all the way over, I would say in nearly 100% of those cases, you're going front there and out. So it's down at the back, down at the sides, all that stuff, right? So matching up with the perimeter is less of an issue. You could just never really slide your hand sideways or up or anything. Well, you can't do that anyway because it's a fucking hairpiece. But you could brush it that way, I guess, because it would all just like diagonal. There'd be diagonal coverage here, but I don't think anyone is brushing the back of their head upwards or even sideways. I think everyone's just fucking at the back going downwards. Everyone, I'm pretty sure. So that's my thoughts on that one. Now, in terms of, for front hairline, poly is almost like a must, but you want it to not be shiny. You also want it not to be unnaturally perfect. You want it to be scraggly in a way that's minutely like the edge of a continent. If it was straight like this, or let's just say it's round like this, a continent, if you zoomed in, it'd be like that. That draws the eye away from any sort of unnatural perfections. but I don't know how to cut that well. There's probably a technique with cutting that would work well. But you don't want exposed base, so that's the difficulty of that. Whatever technique I'm talking about there that I don't know how to do. It's just much easier to just cut in a circle, whatever that shape is, a semicircle, a curve, a neat curve. Because you don't. If you have exposed base without any hairs on it, it's like just basically wrapping your arm in Glad wrap, or just putting plastic over your forehead at the front. Then you definitely can't have a brush back look. You have to brush it forward to cover over that shit because you fucked it, right? Now, glue. There has not been even close to a good glue invented for hairpieces. I use Ultra Hold because when it fucks up, it remains wet and sticky for the whole duration of the time it's ever on your head, which is yucky, but it means you can correct mistakes a little bit. It's not ultra holding at all. None of them are. The only thing that would be ultra holding would be something like cyanoacetate or whatever the fuck it's called, which is super glue. What they call a hard hold rather than a soft hold, but it doesn't even work. It's crackly, crunchy, hard as a rock. You can't, and I think that's the stuff they use to sew wounds back together in hospitals. I've forgotten what that stuff's called, but they do obviously have stitchless glues that you can put for sutures and heal people's arms and stuff if they've got a cut in it. I don't know why the arm, it's just the most visible part of my body that I'm willing to show you. I could show you that as well. Imagine if you had a cut there and you needed stitches, they could either sew it back together, or they can just put glue in there and just seal it and squeeze it together. Put some butterfly clips, or butterfly sticky tape, or whatever the fuck it's called. I don't know the terms for most things in English, all right? It's only my first language. So that glue seems like it would be the ultimate glue. But the thing about skin is it leaks oil all the time. Where you're sitting in a chair in a freezing cold winter, it's gonna leak oil. But mostly if you're fucking running on a treadmill, or if it's a hot day, or if you've got hyperhidrosis like me. I've self-diagnosed, but fuck, just from watching all the people say, oh, just use Ghost Bond. Well, see, for me, Ghost Bond doesn't even have the slightest chance of working because I sweat, therefore I am. You know what I mean? People who can wear Ghost Bond must have the lowest sweat, the smallest and least active sweat glands of anybody on the planet, because I would say for anybody who sweats at all, Ghost Bond is not going to work. And that's the second highest probably selling hairpiece glue there is. So Ultra Hold, Walker Tape Ultra Hold is probably the top seller in the world. That's the one I use. And Ghost Bond is probably the second top. I'm just guessing. I didn't bother researching in the last, however many years it's been, since 2011. What's that? About 13 years? 14 years? Of making these videos. Still haven't researched all that shit. Alternative glues. What else? Just minor companies and so on. Everything that anyone ever tells you in a video, and they're saying, I've just chosen this such and such glue, blah blah blah, comes in 75-ounce bottles. It doesn't. There's no international shipping. If you're in America, you probably have access to every glue mentioned in every video. But in Australia, it's hard to even get the glue that I am asking for. There's no international shipping for flammable items, right? Oh, good. My shopping is on its way. I'm gonna go answer the door. A, do I fucking shave my head and go with a shaved bald head? 2, do I just walk down the stairs like this and go pick it up? Well, hopefully they'll bring it up the stairs. I'm not gonna go down. Or 3, slap this thing on. I haven't really got any hair product because I've just moved house today from a temporary apartment. I'm trying to hold this fucking phone with my foot here. There we go. There's no glue back here, but I don't have the glue in this house. so I can't even put it on properly. But it's got a bit of glue at the front. By the way, this is a really old hairpiece that I've cleaned. I'll have to do this by feel because I've got no... So squishy. There's not enough glue on it. Oh, fuck it, I look much better with hair. Shit, alright. No, forget everything I just said. I'm gonna wear hair for a long time. Jesus, why was I even considering that? Giving it up. That was ridiculous. Holy shit. Can you imagine if I was just bald? I'd be such a loser. There's no way I will ever go without hair. Trust me, that's bullshit. I would never do that to myself. This isn't even on properly and it still looks better than baldness.